Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day I explore how technology is transforming our life, business, industry, and even world, but all in a language that everyone can understand and with a human story at the heart of it all. So today I have the pleasure in speaking with Peter Holten Mühlmann, who is the founder of Trustpilot, the digital platform that brings businesses and consumers together to foster greater trust and inspire collaboration. And it's also free to use, open to everyone, built on transparency. And in a world where fake reviews are getting a lot of headlines, they've also recently released a new consumer verification tool in an effort to protect and promote trust online, something that continues to be a struggle, as we've seen companies like, I think it was Fashion Nova, who've been hiding bad reviews from the public, and so many businesses out there buying fake reviews. It has been difficult for a shopper to trust what is said online. So I want to talk about all this, and I also want to learn more about the story behind how Trustpilot went from a small Danish startup to a global FTSE 250 listed company. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Denmark so you can join me and Peter in conversation. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Now, you founded Trustpilot in 2007, and over the last 14 years, you've led Trustpilot from a small Danish startup to a global FTSE 250 listed company. But I'd love to take you back before all of that. I mean, can you share your origin story with the listeners and how you got where you are today?
So it's been quite an incredible journey, and the world was very different back then, both in my life and in the outside world. When I started Trustpilot, I was still a student in Denmark's second largest city. I was 24 years, and Denmark is very nice in the sense that they actually pay you to be a student. So you get, say, $700-800 per month from the government. So that means you have time to dabble with other things. And I was actually running a small e-commerce business. I was a student, and I had those wonderful hypers of youth where you think you can do three big things at the same time, no problem. And the internet was very different back then. It was all full of hope. It was all full of opportunity. And people were starting to buy and sell online. There were a few e-commerce businesses popping up, but it was also a little bit like the Wild West in the sense that there were a lot of scams out there. It was very hard to know what you could trust. I remember doing some research about a business, and there was this forum where somebody asked, like, hey, do you have experience with this hi-fi company? And there were two users, that the mysterious Dr. Death, and he said, like, great company. And then another user, I think his name was Big Horse, said, like, no, like, never buy from them. And that was really the state of the universe. And it was just evident for me that the marketplace needed trust, both from a consumer and from a business perspective.
I'm curious, have you ever Googled Mr. Horse and Mysterious Dr. Death to see if they're still out there?
No, and I think that was the gist of it, right? At the end of the day, I think back then there wasn't so much awareness of the problem. There was this techno optimism that I was a part of, where I just thought more technology is better, more information is better, more user-generated content is better. There will just be more, and it'll be better. And then in today's world, I really think you're right. Like who is everybody that are posting opinions online?
And I suspect everyone listening has used online reviews, relied on them, whether it be booking a holiday or something at Amazon, or even watching something on a streaming service sometimes. But I'm curious, have you seen the importance of reviews evolve over the years? And although you're an online company, have you been on a digital transformation yourselves too?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. So on the evolution of the digitalization. I mean, I remember when we started, we had a computer in the cleaning closet. So we had our own server. And I mean, the cloud didn't exist. We didn't have social media profiles because they didn't exist. And also when we spoke with, the entire sale was purely telephone based. If you can imagine in 2007, a young Peter having a conversation with an online retailer saying like, hey, what your customers are writing about you on the internet matters. You should invite your customers to share their opinions about them. And no, if you don't like it, you cannot just delete it. Those businesses thought, okay, what has he been smoking? That sounds like pretty crazy. And in today's world, everything is digital. And then the pandemic happened. And I think even the meeting culture became digital. How we work together became digital. And talking about reviews also, I remember when I started, reviews existed, but they were only written by journalists in the form of newspapers. And so you had, and then you had those forum posts I alluded to. And so when we started, reviews started to pop up a little bit in travel, a little bit for hotels, a little bit for e-commerce companies. But it was really seen as something novel, something that was a little dangerous. And a lot of both people and businesses were a little frightened by it. And if you then so I remember speaking with the first businesses, it was really only the first movers, the ones who were saying, hey, we do more on customer service than anybody, and we don't get rewarded for it because we're on these price comparison websites, and it's just like price. I need a way to show that I have a greater customer experience. And I think when we started, we had, I don't know, 498 reviews or something in that magnitude. And it was really, we just saw it as online reviews for online retailers. And in today's world, so what then has happened is that it's actually difficult to come up with things where you don't look at reviews and other people's opinions before you buy. Like, it doesn't matter if it's your dentist or a divorce lawyer, or you're getting eye surgery, or you're getting a new vase for your home, or a couch, or you're buying software online. And so I think it's become so normal that you actually don't think about it. You just like, what movie should I watch? What lasagna recipe is better? It really, and sometimes even, and I think we should talk about that, even if there are some challenges to the system. I think it's quite miraculous how, when I'm trying to figure out what the best robo-bag is, that I can get advice from 1,000 people all over the world, and usually it ends up in a very good recommendation.
And I must admit that if I have a negative experience with a company, whether that be keeping me on hold for an hour, making me push 5 every 30 seconds to get to various menus, or another bugbear of mine is when somebody sends me an email from an auto do not reply email address. For the most part, I just stop using them. And I mention this because one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today was after reading about your grudge report. I saw a lot of myself in those reports, but for people listening that haven't seen it, can I ask that you share some of the stats from that grudge report?
Yeah, of course. So basically, what it was about is that we're all, as people, holding grudges, right? But it was really what we wanted to do was to say, hey, when you share your opinion online, just pause for a moment and think about what is it that you want to say. Maybe you can think this in a nicer way. Like it's actually not nice to hold a grudge. Just pause for a moment and think about, like, is there a way you can say this in a constructive way that others will benefit from? Where you'll instead of, you can say, if usually sometimes if you yell at the world, will yell back at you. So whereas if you can say, hey, like, this wasn't as good as it could be, could you please help me? Actually, you'd be surprised of how many people that wants to help you. So for us, it was also about taking responsibility for the debate and taking responsibility for the tone. But it turns out that 69% of consumers, they have a grudge of some sort. Could be, you can say, anywhere from not getting a job but also like a lot of consumers hold grudges. 69% of consumers hold grudges against bad customer experiences, bad customer services. And so we wanted to say two things with that report. One was when you were holding a grudge, what I said before, right? That the way you express that grudge can make a big difference for how it's being handled. But also really to encourage businesses to say that when they get a bad review,
Yeah.
And that can be an opportunity to show what you really stand for. Like, I love that comment you just made with the, like, do you send an email from a do not reply where you say like, hey, you forgot to reach page 17 of our terms and conditions, where it clearly says that you can just go somewhere not nice? Or does it say like do you get a phone call from the head of customer success saying like, hey, you know what, this happened, we're really sorry, we'll fix your problem, and here's you can say a nice bottle of wine or some chocolate or flowers or whatever, and we'd love to have you back as a customer. And what it turns out is also that the way people are using reviews is that they don't expect businesses to be perfect.
Yeah.
That's actually an illusion. Most companies think that the best they can do is to have, say, thousands of perfect 5-star reviews. And then they give that one review, the world is ending. And the reality is that I think we are all people. And we just expect that businesses are made by people and people make mistakes. So we don't believe when a business says, oh, we never make mistakes. Apple makes mistakes. All the perfect companies, they all make mistakes. So the question is not, do they make mistakes? The question is, how do they react when they make a mistake? That's what we want to know.
And were there any results in that report that surprised you at all? Because obviously you live and breathe this reviewing space online, but was there anything that took you by surprise?
The only thing that took me by surprise was actually how many people could relate to this. I think there was this collective assumption by regulators, by online platforms, by the people on the internet at the beginning of the internet was that this would only be a positive. And I think now there's this really big realization that we all need to take our various parts of the responsibility for that online conversation. And so in some sense, it shouldn't have been a surprise to me, because I knew that we are actually, I think the vast majority of people are tired of how mean people are on the internet. This can be such an agent for good. Like we have all the information that has ever been created by humanity at our fingertips. I can speak with a person in Shanghai tomorrow. Like, I can speak with you online now. I can think I have a conversation with Elon Musk on Twitter. Like, the opportunity is endless, but I really think that you can say that the fake identities and the tone can do much more damage than anybody thought it could. And I think that's what people resonated was everybody said, you know what, actually, yeah, like I can even succumb to that. Sometimes like I have a bad experience and my first thought is like, oh my God, I'm going to be this online warrior now. I'm going to just like, my 1-star review is going to punish you. And you know what, actually, that's not so constructive. And that goes for social media, it goes for reviews, and that resonated. It surprised me how much that resonated with everybody, businesses and people.
And of course, you mentioned the word there, fake. And I think one of the biggest challenges right now is the fake review. And it could be a disgruntled employee, a customer, or even a competitor wanting to get revenge over someone that's doing better than them. Or equally, you've got companies that might go to a bot farm somewhere to flood their page with lots of positive reviews. But can you set the scene and tell me the scale of the problem with fake reviews? Is it as bad as we read? What are your experiences?
Yes, first of all, I think that a little bit like like I said, with a tone of voice, like we're all really tired of fake news. And we're all really tired of people who try to manipulate the system. So for the internet at large, this is an enormous problem. And for us as a reviews platform, it's our number one priority. In some way, you can say it's actually probably the biggest reasons for our existence is that we need to say, hey, somebody has to do everything they can to try to ensure that on the one hand, you can just log on today and share your opinion. Not if the business wants you to, but if you want to, right? So it cannot just be this invitation only controlled by the company system. But if we open that door for you to be able to share your opinion when you think so, then you also open the door for other things. And so we really invest so much into being on top of that. Every year, we're launching what we call our transparency report. And so people can follow how we're doing, or how we are keeping up and ensuring the integrity on the site. And we remove roughly, I think it's 5% of all reviews on the site. And most of the reviews we remove are reviewed very fast, but some stay on and do unfortunately result in some people taking the wrong decision about a business. But it's an area where enormous development is taking place. Development and it's really development in artificial intelligence. It's development in big data analysis. It's development in ensuring that you can see that people have real identities. And so that makes me hopeful that even if it works, you can say, well today with some mistakes in it, that it can become even better in the future.
And of course, on the back of that, you guys launched a new consumer verification tool, which I believe is an industry first in online reviews. But again, for anyone that's missed that, can you just tell me a little bit more about this tool, who it's aimed at, and how it works?
Yeah, sure. So the consumer verification, it labels reviewers with a verified badge in instances where the reviewer has shared a photo ID with Trustpilot and verified their identity. And so this gives reassurance to other consumers and businesses that the review comes from a real person, basically. And so the tool is available on Trustpilot on an opt-in basis. It'll require reviewers to share a copy of their government-issued photo ID and to take a selfie. And so we match that picture with the ID, and you still get the option. You can keep your identity. We're not sharing that with anybody. We keep it anonymous to the public, to businesses. And we learned that 85% of British consumers actually say that they would be willing to prove their identity if it helped protect others from misinformation on the internet. And so this is really what you can say, an example of what I talked about is that we as a platform really want to take responsibility for ensuring that you can trust the content. And it turns out that people are with us on that journey. People actually really want to contribute. People want to have a better internet.
And I'm curious, on that consumer verification tool there, was it something that you just wanted to create, or was it a data decision based on the kind of feedback that you were getting? Was there a story behind releasing that tool too?
No, I mean, when you make decisions as an internet company, typically you make decisions based on two things, right? I mean, you make decisions on what kind of world do you want to see. And I think a world where, the Trustpilot I really want is a Trustpilot where we can say we have real people sharing reviews of real businesses. Yeah. But of course, you need to match idealism with a real sense of how the world works. And so and also you need to match it with what technology enables. And so when we started Trustpilot, people didn't have smartphones. If you wanted to take a picture of your passport, you would have to first buy a camera, then find a way. You had to buy a scanner. You'd have to upload it to a server somewhere. That would actually, you'd need a lot of equipment, and it would take a long. And in today's world, you can just use your smartphone. You take a picture of yourself, a picture of your photo ID, and boom. There you go. So it's enabled by technology. And then the second question was like, okay, so now the technology enables this, but will people actually do it? Will they have concerns for example, you can have legitimate concerns about sharing your identity with an internet, you can say platform. Do you trust Trustpilot to treat that data in the right way? And so we surveyed a lot of people, and it turned out overwhelmingly that this is an initiative that people want to support. And so we had purpose, we had data, and we had the technology.
And before you came on the podcast, I was doing a little bit of research to get up to speed on the state of the industry at the moment. And I also read that paying for fake online reviews could actually be made a crime soon, and new laws could mean businesses such as Trustpilot, Amazon and TripAdvisor will need to outline what they have done to stop companies from exploiting their systems. Is that something that you really welcome at Trustpilot?
Oh my God, yeah. Isn't it fantastic? I think it's great. I think it's just great. Again, it comes back to this thing that the internet works when there is the shared responsibility from regulators, from platforms, and from people. And so I think this is a great example of this, where we as platforms have a responsibility to invest a lot into the integrity of the platform, and where like, I just don't think it flies, this thing where you just say like, oh, but I mean, when I say the collective we as internet platforms, when you just say, oh, but trust us, right?
Yeah.
No, like, we have to show what we do to earn that trust. Conversely, though, the regulators have to give us a framework to operate in. They cannot just say like, oh, it's completely up to you to figure this out. And if people are manipulating, you can say the thing from a regulatory perspective is that when people are writing fake reviews, you can say that it's actually undermining the entire economy. It's undermining the consumer trust. It makes it harder to compete on a fair playing field. And normal people, I always think of my mom. Like, when mom buys something online, like, I always imagine my mom goes online, goes to the internet, buys something. I don't want mom to get scammed.
Yeah.
Like, fake reviews leads to mom getting scammed. And so the people that are writing fake reviews, it seems like sort of like, oh, that doesn't really hurt anybody. It's just like, downloading an MP3 back in the day and so on. But it's actually causing a ton of damage, because you're opening the world for scams. You're making the economy a very unfair place to compete. You are making it harder for new businesses to start, because new businesses are relying on that trust and that reviews. And so for the regulators now to go in and give a very clear legal framework dedicated to this area, I think is very positive. And of course, we welcome increased transparency on our end, and happy to share more about how we do to ensure the integrity.
And as you said earlier, it has been a rough couple of years with the misinformation, the general meanness online. But I think, as you said, we're all beginning to tire of that now and want something different. And I'm curious, what makes you hopeful and maybe even excited about bringing consumers and businesses together and making things better than they've been in the past?
I think it was actually in the pandemic that I realized how important this was, and how it actually worked pretty well, where suddenly we all had to go home. We all had to get our groceries online. We all had to basically get everything we needed. I remember in the early days when I'd go to the supermarket, I would be in there. I'd try to hold my breath for as long as I could, because I didn't know like how infectious was this, and it was scary. And so I just switched to buying everything I could from the internet. But the businesses, they had like supply chain issues. They had like the delivery system was overloaded. But they were then extremely good at communicating that and communicating the reasons for why they were overloading and what that meant. And I think that was, even if you can say for many people that was really hard, well, it was hard given the circumstances, but it actually worked out really well. And I think that if I look at societies and if I look at businesses that did well in the pandemic, it was societies and businesses that communicated extremely well and that collaborated.
Love that, and love chatting with you today. But now we've come full circle. We began the podcast talking about your origin story. I'm now going to ask you to leave everyone listening with the funniest or most interesting story that has happened to you on that career that you've been on since 2007, when the iPhone was just coming out. Is there any story you could leave us with today?
Yeah, I was thinking about what story can I share. There's been many with Trustpilot, but I think the one story I always think about was that I was invited to a dinner with the royal family, together with a number of other Danish entrepreneurs. So we would meet the Danish queen and then the crown prince, and we were then going into small groups with the queen, and I just and it was me and the founder of an online food delivery company. So you can imagine the two of us trying to tell the queen that how this new app would be extremely helpful when she had to buy Chinese online. And that for all her online purchases, it was extremely important that she checked the reviews before she bought. And so for me, it's always been lovely just to imagine the Danish queen sitting there on her laptop and checking the reviews before those crucial online purchases. But
what a great story. Absolutely love it. And Obviously, we've talked about a lot of things today, from the consumer verification tool to the grudge report. And I know Trustpilot is a huge site. So for anyone wanting to dig a little bit deeper on anything we talked about today, or maybe even contact your team if they want to learn more information about anything, what's the best starting?
I think if you want to know about what we're doing to ensure the integrity of the site, we're calling it the transparency report. You can find that on the website. You can also find the Holding Grudges campaign on the website. And it's probably also using, you can get in touch with us on all the usual preferred social media through the website. And we're here, we're people.
Awesome. And that is one of the things that I loved about our conversation. We're here, we're people. That speaks volumes about you and your company and what you've built here. And as you said, the world's changed so much since 2007 when that iPhone came out. Then it was the App Store, and then it wasn't until 2010 the iPad came out. And since then we've had cloud technology, we've had a pandemic. What you're doing here and trying to make a difference and bring businesses and people together in a nice way in a world full of division and polarization is truly special. And I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. And that's exactly what you're doing. So thank you so much, Peter, for coming on and sharing your story today.
Yeah, the human got lost in the digital conversation. Really appreciate being here.
What an amazing guy. I just love the story that began as a Danish startup in 2007, before the cloud, so many social media sites, and just as the iPhone was preparing to arrive. And to go from all that to becoming the global FTSE 250 listed company it is today. I hope this story will inspire startup founders listening all over the world. Every day I try and beam your ears to a different part of the world and a different success story. I think we've featured over 60 to 70 different countries where startup founders have shared their story. And I want to continue doing that and share your story on here too. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can connect with me on Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. Just look for @NeilC.Hughes. But don't just hit the follow or connect button. Tell me you listened to today's episode or an episode of the podcast. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like, whatever it might be. And equally, if you want to come on the show, let me know. And if you'd like to work with me, whether that be ghostwriting your business or CEO's blog posts, or let me help you launch your own podcast, again, visit my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But although this is the end of this episode, have no fear. I already have another guest lined up for you tomorrow and a completely separate topic. And I'll beam your ears to... well, you'll have to tune in tomorrow to find that one. So thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.